Of the 84 target vessels, 40 ships were placed within 1 mile of the bomb detonation point, and 20 ships were placed within 1/2 mile. The obsolete Arkansas carrier Saratoga were secured fore and aft by fixed moorings, presenting their full length to the explosion in order that maximum damage would be ensured. The Arkansas was placed about 250 yards from the bomb, and the Saratoga about 700. These distances were carefully estimated so that at least one, and probably both of these heavy ships would be deliberately sunk. In order to properly determine the shock effect of the underwater explosion against submerged submarine hulls, 6 of these craft were suspended underwater at varying depths. These pictures show the operation of submerging the skipjack. The method used was to secure heavy concrete mooring blocks to each boat. Buoyancy tanks were then slowly flooded until the concrete blocks rested on the bottom of the lagoon. Varying lengths of chain were used between the concrete blocks and the 6 submarines in order to hold each boat at its desired depth. 2 additional submarines were left on the surface, one of which was the Skate, damaged in Test Able. In Test Baker, photographic procedure was similar to that followed in Test Able. Many types of cameras, and especially motion picture cameras, were encased in huge lead vaults atop photographic towers erected on 3 islands in the lagoon. All of these cameras operate automatically. These specially designed enclosures, built of reinforced concrete to withstand the shock of the primary blast action, are lined with thick sheets of lead to protect against radiation from the bomb burst, which would otherwise fog sensitive films. To further protect the film from the effects of radiation, sliding lead panels built over the camera ports and designed to close automatically will seal the vaults, making radioactive penetration impossible. Flown from Rongerik to witness the historical event is King Judah, ruler of Bikini. It was he who unselfishly gave his island to the United States in order that these experiments could be conducted. King Judah has been invited aboard the command ship of Operation Crossroads to meet Vice Admiral Blandy. The LSM-60 was designated as the target suspension vessel for the Baker Day test. The equivalent of a bomb bay was cut in the tank deck, and through this opening the bathysphere carrying the atomic bomb was lowered into the sea. The bomb was held at the desired depth until detonation by means of specially designed winches. When everything was in readiness aboard the LSM-60, the scientists and military personnel left the ship, and a careful check was made of their departure so that no stragglers were left. The signal flag yoke was 2 blocked on the halyards, indicating that no personnel were aboard. After Dr. Warner fused the bomb, Rear Admiral Parsons, Deputy Commander for Technical Direction, took a last look at the LSM and went over the side into a waiting picket boat. Having left the target array, the Admiral comes aboard the USS Mount McKinley, flagship of Operation Crossroads. Everything has been placed in readiness, and he submits his report to Vice Admiral Blandy. Aboard the firing ship USS Cumberland Sound, members of the Los Alamos group of the Manhattan Engineer District entered the timing laboratory, where radio transmitters and specially constructed instruments for detonating the bomb are located. The timing laboratory scientists pass into the master control room. Dr. Marshall Holloway, leader of the Los Alamos group, unlocks and personally throws one of the master transmitter switches. The timing laboratory is a complex interlocking system of radio transmitters, time recorders, and scientific apparatus. As H hour approaches, generators are started, transmitters warmed up, graph cards on time recorders changed, and everything made ready for the blast. H hour minus 2 minutes is broadcast from the ship, and all hands stand by. Sitting in the central console switchboard with the microphone is Dr. Ernest Titterton, assistant to Dr. Holloway. As he announces H hour minus 30 seconds, Dr. Holloway throws the 30-second switch. Dr. Titterton at the automatic firing panel board prepares to broadcast the last 15 seconds.
15, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Another angle of the blast is photographed from the Mount McKinley, and King Judah displays a marked interest in the proceedings. These pictures of the ascending water column show the expanding cloud of spray at the base of the column moving outward and enveloping the ships in the target array. Great quantities of radioactive water from the column descended upon the decks of the nearby vessels, and ship hulls a mile away were drenched by the wall of foaming water. Here is an Army Air Force drone approaching the cloud column. Still another view of the explosion, recorded from a photographic tower on Bikini, shows the column composed of millions of tons of water rising at an initial rate exceeding the speed of sound. The water and spray from the explosion will fall for several minutes. Here again is an excellent photographic portrayal of the boiling, foaming wall of water engulfing the ships in the foreground. This highly lethal spray was intensely radioactive, partly by reason of the neutron bombardment of the sodium in the salt contained in seawater. It is estimated that radioactivity immediately following the burst was equal to hundreds of tons of radium. An expanding cloud of spray and fog several hundred feet high may be seen moving out from the center of the detonation. This cloud eventually covered the entire target array. Waves outside the water column, about 1,000 feet from the center of the explosion, were 80 to 100 feet in height. These waves rapidly diminished in size as they proceeded outward. When reaching Bikini, had a height of approximately 7 feet. Visible on the surface of Bikini Lagoon is an oil slick leaking from ruptured oil tanks, principally from the battleship Arkansas. 3 major ships were sunk. the Arkansas immediately, the aircraft carrier Saratoga after 7.5 hours, and the Japanese battleship Nagato after 5 days. Several small craft were also sunk. Immediately after the burst, radiological reconnaissance drones were sent into the lagoon. Despite the presence of radioactive contamination, radiological safety patrols immediately entered the lagoon for a preliminary appraisal of the damage. Landing parties, armed with Geiger counters which register any unsafe concentration of radioactive particles, go ashore at Bikini to recover the camera film and the data recorded by the scientific instruments. Meanwhile, an inspecting party headed by Admiral Blandy, General Kepner, and Admiral Parsons survey the damage in the target array. Shown here is the Japanese battleship Nagato, which flooded and capsized 5 days after the blast. The light carrier Independence sustained severe superstructure damage in Test Able, and no additional apparent topside damage was visible after Test Baker. The heavy cruiser Salt Lake City. The destroyer Hughes, in sinking condition, was beached. The Saratoga sustained heavy underwater hull damage and listed badly. Other ships surviving the Baker Day blast were the submarine Skate, the submarine Pilotfish, the heavy cruiser Pensacola, a troop transport, and a small yard oiler. The Saratoga, taking on more and more water, slowly sinks stern first. The operation of Joint Army-Navy Task Force 1, in conducting the tests, has set a pattern for close, effective cooperation of the armed services and civilian scientists in the planning and execution of this highly technical operation. It has also provided valuable training of personnel in joint operations requiring great precision and coordination of efforts. This preliminary photographic report has covered the period of time through Baker plus 1 day.